let's start. And first of all, thank you so much to all the candidates for being here tonight and for stepping up to run. And for the rest of the committee and for all the guests here, thank you. Some of you have been here since 3 o'clock. It's a lot, so thanks guys. So with the candidates forum, this is going to be a little informal, unlike the League of Women Voters. So I would ask each candidate to come up here, and you'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. And then after that, we'll open up the floor for question and answers if people have questions, not in any particular order. The person, if you have a question, just say who the question is directed to: the select board, the school committee, the water district, the moderator, or Acton Housing Authority. So just mention who you want to answer that question, and we'll just go from there. So first up, let me start with our town moderator, Joanne Berry. And the only thing that I ask, guys, I've been told not to get out of this because there is a speaker here, so you have to stand behind here.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me today, despite the lack of competition. And I also thank you for previous support. I know I'm at the top of the ballot and there's no contest. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for your previous votes. I would just like to say, I love town meeting. Town meeting is a treasure. I know some people think it's a pain in the neck, but it works better than the other forms. Or it's the worst except for all the others, whatever that quote is. And I would just say that it's always my goal to make the meeting a good use of your time as a legislator, as a participant coming to the, oh, and this phone is ringing right up here. In that town meeting, by using this process, comes to the best decisions for the community, I always feel. I would just like to point out, just because the more people that know this, the better, and this will be published in the warrant as well, about reasonable accommodations if somebody is very disabled and cannot attend. Call into the clerk at Town Hall and arrangements can be made. We did that last year. A couple of folks really couldn't attend. There is the free van transportation. You just have to call up 978-844-6809. And finally, for folks who have mobility but limited mobility, where a distance is difficult to walk, park on the Hayward Road side of the high school near the entrance to the auditorium, and there will be a check-in person to meet folks that park there. So spread the word on those things so that people know that that option is available, both for the, if you really cannot attend, and the limited mobility parking area. And I think that's all. I hope I'll see you all there, and thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. We'll move on to the select board. I see David Martin sitting right here. If you want to go first, then Dean Charter and June Leslie.
Hello, I'm David Martin. I've been on the select board for 2 terms and I'm running for re-election. To keep our community strong, it's vital that we be accepting of everyone here. I'm proud to have been instrumental in the creation of Acton's DEI Commission. While I was the first chair of the commission, it made 4 recommendations to the select board, all of which have been implemented. I play a large role in sustainability efforts for the town, helping to make sure that Acton operations are as green as they can be without an undue burden on taxpayers. We also work to assist residents to take actions to combat climate change. Acton always has many projects in progress for building renovations, historical preservation, recreation, stormwater, streetscapes, etc. All these make Acton a more livable place now and in the future. I work hard to make sure that we work on what's most important and that the results produce best value for our efforts. During my years on the board, I've become proficient in municipal finance. It requires constant effort to make sure that taxpayers' money is efficiently and effectively used while making sure that town projects and our schools are properly funded. I'm proud that both Acton government and AB schools are high achieving and provide an excellent value to our residents. Public sector projects take a long time to conceive, gather feedback, design, fund, and implement. Focus is required to make sure our efforts are effective. I work with anyone and everyone in an open and transparent fashion. During my years on the board, I've met with a variety of residents, many of whom's opinions differ from my own. I'm proud that Acton has taken a leadership position in many areas. My goal is to continue having Acton be a great place to live. I appreciate your support. Tell your friends to vote on April 29th.
Thank you, David. So, my name's Dean Charter. Like David, I'm just completing my second term on the select board, running for a third term. A little bit about my background. I grew up here in Acton, graduated from AB in 1968. My wife and I built our home on Charter Road in 1974. We raised 2 sons there. The specific items, as a select board member, you need to be conversant in everything that goes on in town. Keeping that in mind, each of us we have certain affinities for certain projects and sort of issues that we're most involved with, and you pretty quickly become subject matter experts. The specific areas of interest that I've pursued the most in my terms have been related to the police department, fire department, public works, and senior services. The projects that I consider to be some of my best achievements in my terms here is the North Acton Fire Station, advancing the Kelly's Corner project, and the Acton Dog Park, which is now approved and should break ground later on in the summer. And I will be doing a presentation at town meeting in May in pursuit of a new public works facility. A little bit more about my background. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in education, and I have a Master's in public administration. During my career working for the town, which spanned 40 years, I became a Massachusetts Certified Public Purchasing Official. So I'm probably fairly well suited to understand some of the issues that involve with procurement, project acquisition, project management. So I really enjoy that kind of thing. Some of the other liaison assignments that I'm involved with, I'm the Select Board's representative to the Community Preservation Committee. I'm also the liaison to the Council on Aging, the Dog Park Committee, the Design Review Board, and the Conservation Commission, and the Acton 250 Committee, which will be mercifully a rather short-term commitment. We will sunset in about a little bit more than a year. Those of you who know me, and I think most of you do, understand that I politically am a moderate to conservative individual. And what I found is that all of the members of the board that I've served with in the past have been very congenial. We have great discussions. We have lots of frank discussions with one another. But I think we ended up with a much better result when you have a certain diversity of opinion. And I hope to continue to bring that to the board for another 3 years with your support. Thank you very much.
everyone. I'm June Leslie, a longtime resident of Acton since 1978, and I am a Democrat. I am now running for a select board seat, and a little bit about me, briefly, is I've been a registered nurse since 1977, a licensed psychotherapist in my own business consulting currently since 1995. I have 3 advanced graduate degrees. One is in business management, one is in education, one's in counseling. I wanted to let you know that what's most important to me is this: maintaining our health, wellness, diversity, fairness, and justice for all. Let's keep Acton a welcome and safe community. Let's remain committed to protecting our environment. Let's do all we can to assure affordability and accessibility. Let's support our public schools. And let's support all small businesses. In short, I'm a Democrat my whole life. And let's not forget, democracy is worth defending. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Next, we'll move on to the school committee candidates. Who is sitting first? Lisa. So, please do come up.
You wouldn't notice. Good evening. I am Lisa Adil. My name is Lisa Adil, and I'm running for school committee. Nearly 4 years ago, my husband, 2 kids, and myself moved to Acton. Among the many reasons we chose Acton, it was the solid education system that cemented our decision. This magnificent community's values mirror our own. I am so incredibly fortunate that my 2 children will have the opportunity to grow up in a community that cultivates lifelong learners, strives for excellence and achievement, promotes environmental responsibility and activism, embraces growth mindset, celebrates diversity, ensures equity, and provides an inclusive and culturally responsive environment. As a parent, former teacher, and current Cote PTO vice president, I strongly believe in the importance of everyone having access to a high-quality public education. During my time teaching high school science, I taught in several different towns, including Chelmsford. The variety of school districts afforded me the opportunity to directly observe differences in the implementation of services and programs for English language learners, special education, and social emotional learning curriculum. Additionally, it was beneficial to observe a variety of district policies and how those policies impacted the schools and, most importantly, affected student growth and learning. This enables me to think more critically about how my own children are taught and all of the other children in the school district, and what a quality education with engaged learners looks like. My background in education will be a valuable contribution to the school committee, but what's important for everyone to know is that I will lean on and listen to the community. We are so fortunate to have a community filled with culturally rich and diverse people with a multitude of skills and talents. No matter what my feelings are personally on a given topic, I will always vote towards what serves our community best. Thank you everyone so much for your time.
Jason Fitzgerald and then Glen Cote.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Jason Fitzgerald. I lived in Acton since 2001, so 23, going on 24 years, with my wife and our 4 kids. I have been a soccer coach, I've been assistant scoutmaster, I have been a faith leader, I have been a baseball coach, I have served on our Douglas PTO board multiple times. And through all those experiences, I've really come to appreciate what the youth in this town means. It's a passionate youth, and are invested in a wide variety of different activities. They have a wide variety of skill set, and they have a wide variety of interests. And I've just come to appreciate that through those different service activities. But as most of you know, probably, I've run for the school committee for the last 2 years, and both times I've lost. So since then, we've had to cut 30 to 40 more full-time positions at the school, and we've had to fight through a very tough, narrow override, primarily to fund the school system. We're looking at needing another override in the next year or so, and this is not even going to maintain level funding. If you're here, you're obviously an engaged voter, and so the odds are you voted against me. I was critical of the override last year, admittedly, because it did not address any of the structural challenges, and it's pretty much put us in the same situation where we are continuing to find ourselves. I recall seeing many of you in Together for Acton shirts last year, so I realize this runs counter to the prevailing sentiment in this room. However, the fact remains that we're still in a budget crisis in Acton. Every budget cycle we hear that education funding is broken, that we need more money from the state, and that we need to demand the school committee work with Beacon Hill to structure that funding, to secure that funding. I don't understand that necessarily, because I know that the school committee has not been negligent. They have been doing this. They have not left Beacon Hill dollars sitting on the table. This work will continue, of course, but this money isn't free either. Increases from the state will either come from increasing taxes or cuts from other state services. So we need to be aware of that. I also realize that the situation in DC I also realize what the situation in DC is, and I certainly do not think that we're going to see more federal dollars appearing in Acton or Massachusetts anytime soon. So we're in this perpetual cycle, budget cycle, where we're shortfall every year. We need to address this. Not with our home values in front of mind, not with some misguided vision of where I was as a kid or how I was when I was young, but in a holistic way that accounts for our fixed income residents, all vulnerable populations, our multi-language learners in the schools especially, while at the same time maintaining the rigorous education that enables our students to excel and be launched into successful secondary education or other endeavors as young adults. I'm excited to take on this challenge. It certainly will not be fun. Well, it will not be easy, but depending on how you look at it, it may or may not be fun. But it's necessary, and we need someone who can be objective and who has the conviction to take this on. So I ask for your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Okay. Is that good? Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Glen Cote. I'm an advocate, I'm an activist, and I'm running for school committee. I went from failing just about every class in middle school to graduating magna cum laude with a computer science degree at UMass Lowell. And that journey means a lot to me. Because what that taught me is that the educators and supporters in my life can help bring people that are struggling with school, having a tough time, and they were able to help me get to where I am today. And I was able to graduate with an honors thesis at UMass Lowell that certainly wasn't a given at any moment. And that mentorship and the care and the support that they gave to me means a lot to me. So I'm called to serve on the school committee now. After graduating college, I worked as a special education teaching assistant at Wayland High School to help give back to the education community. I also got more civically engaged here in Acton. I've been involved in the Acton Democratic Town Committee for years. I helped with the override vote with Together for Acton. I'm proud that I did that. And now that I'm called to serve more on the school committee myself. So, regarding what we're dealing with on the school committee, this is the 4th straight year of budget cuts. They are painful. What we're dealing with at the moment is that because of the dedicated work that a lot of people in this room did, we were able to work our way from what would have been a disastrous 80 staffing cuts to 20 instead. I don't think anyone in this room would be happy to sit here right now if we were dealing with 80 staffing cuts instead of 20. So it's a good thing that override vote passed, and I'm proud that I did that. I'm proud of all of you in this room that worked for that too. And I'll bring it back to this. We have worked too hard. As a community, as a town, we have worked we have put in too much effort, too much advocacy to see us go backwards on more funding, on more of more funding cuts. And so we have to do everything that we can as a community to help bring people together, help bring people into the process, help the community be engaged with the process, as we're doing everything that we can to prevent steeper cuts going forward. And we need to lift up every student in our district. We need to make sure that all of our kids have the resources and support that we need. And regarding I agree that the current funding model is broken. What I did 2 Tuesdays ago was I was at a joint Senate and House Ways and Means Committee, and I helped pack the room as they were hissing at Healy appointees about how awful the current budget funding model is. So I have been advocating for a statewide reform on this level, and I encourage all of you to do so, and as a school committee member, I will help lead that charge, which I think is desperately what we need. We're dealing with a rising tide of anti-intellectualism in the United States. We're dealing with a rising tide of people that don't believe in the concept of a public education, that believe in things like book bans, unfortunately some in town. And as a school committee member, I don't think that's okay. I think we need to defend public education with everything that we have. I think we need to bring people together. And I think that we've done too much work for too long to go back on this progress that we've made, and it's a good thing that override passed. It's a good thing that we were advocating for that. It's a good thing that we're going to come together as a community and do everything that we can to make sure that the funding reform going forward is what we need and help serve our district instead of what we're getting now. And so there's a lot more to say. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm Glen Cote. I'm running for school committee. I'm proud of the work the school committee has done, and I'm excited to serve you further. Thank you so much.
Next up is the Water District, John Peterson. No, we have Barry sitting first, so I'll ask him to go first.
Sure.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi. Hi, I am Barry Rosen. I bring a wealth of diverse experiences in volunteer service in our water district and town to the crucial role of water commissioner. My journey began in the classroom, where I taught biology, environmental science, and engineering. I transitioned into research and development, creating innovative biological and environmental computer models under NSF grants. This foundation propelled me into various leadership positions in several Fortune 100 technology companies. I have devoted countless hours to committees that focus on safeguarding the quality and quantity of our community's water resources. As chairperson of the Waterland Management Committee, for much of my 14 years on the committee, I led efforts to provide critical advice to the water commissioners on essential decisions. 9 years ago, I was honored to join the Water Resources Advisory Committee, which advises the Select Board on water, stormwater, and wastewater issues. For the last 6 years, I have proudly served as an Acton Water District Commissioner. We have accomplished remarkable feats, including designing, constructing, and securing regulatory approvals for cutting-edge PFAS treatment, obtaining innovative funding solutions for effective PFAS solutions, protecting the safety of our wells and recharge areas through strategic land acquisitions, recruiting a talented district manager, treasurer, auditor, and law firm in response to retirements. We have strengthened the partnership between the Acton Water District and the town. We are investigating the feasibility of new water sources to secure our future. And we are enhancing communication and outreach efforts within the community. The district has also made prudent financial decisions that have maintained our impressive AA+ Standard & Poor's rating. I thrive on collaborating with my passionate peers as we tackle the complex challenges ahead. I am eager to continue this vital work, and I humbly ask for your vote. Together, we can ensure a sustainable and vibrant water future for our community. Thank you for your consideration. Please re-elect Barry Rosen for Water Commissioner.
I'm John Peterson. Water is the stuff of life. The Acton Water District has supplied water to the residents of Acton for more than a century. My wife Cheryl and I moved to Acton in 1986, almost 40 years ago. Our two children were both educated at AB, K-12. Erica graduated in 2015, matriculated from Skidmore, and is now working in Albany, New York. Jack graduated from AB in 2018 and is a student at UMass Lowell. I've been a scientist in the field of chemistry for more than 50 years, earning an undergraduate degree in chemistry from MIT and a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley. I've spent most of my career in drug development, building expertise in analytical and process chemistry, as well as a good working knowledge of toxicology. I've led discovery research and am an inventor on more than 40 patents. I've managed global drug development programs with annual budgets of millions of dollars, including the management of commercial operations. My managerial and technical background are well mapped to the challenges of evaluating water quality standards, delivering high-quality water, and contributing to the governance of the Acton Water District. My service as a school committee member, 7 years including 2 years as chair, and a member of the Acton Water District Finance Committee for the past 2 years, grounds me in Acton's needs. I believe in the importance of communication. I presented the school budget to Acton Town Meeting 5 times. I've delivered the opening presentation for the Acton Water District Annual Meeting both of the last 2 years. From both my public and private sector work, I understand the governance role of a board. I would like to give back to the community that has supported me and my family by becoming a Water District Commissioner. Please vote for John Peterson on April 29th.
Lastly, we have Peter Berry from Acton Housing Authority. I have to say that I'm one of the commissioners too, but an appointed one.
Good evening, I'm Peter Berry. I'm running unopposed for a commissioner of the Acton Housing Authority. Housing Authority is governed by a 5-member board, 4 of whom are elected, and as Anna mentioned, she is the governor's appointment to the board. The Housing Authority owns and operates 140 apartments. You're familiar with Windsor Green, probably know the buildings on Sachem Way over in East Acton. We own 25 condominiums scattered throughout the condominium developments in Acton. We rent out about 170 apartments in privately owned properties to the very lowest income, elderly, disabled, and family residents of Acton. The great majority of the residents of our properties are earning below 30% of the median income. Being part of town government is part of my DNA. I moved to the town in 1988, immediately joined the Housing Authority when there was a vacancy at that point. Worked with Betty McManus, who was the director at the time. Moved on to the Acton Community Housing Corporation, which works on moderate rate home ownership opportunities in town. Worked with Betty and Dennis McManus there, and Nancy Tavernier, many of you probably know. Moved on to the Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, was first chair of the Community Preservation Committee and helped lead the effort to write the Community Preservation Plan in town, and then served 9 years on the Select Board. And I'm currently a member of the Housing Authority Board, as well as the representative from the board to the Community Preservation Committee, and I've been interested in environmental issues and sustainability issues in town. I'm an associate member of the Green Advisory Board in town, so I've I've got the skills and interest in continuing to serve on the Housing Authority Board, and like the other members and candidates here, I urge everyone to vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. We'll open the floor for questions. Like I said, anyone raise your hand, I'll call on you, and you can ask a question to any of our candidates here. Or if you just want to ask for to the select board, just ask all of them. School committee, just ask all of them. However you want to do it. Come on, guys. Oh, there you go. So who raised your hand first? Where do I go? I'll go from Bob. Okay. Linda.
I'm Linda Vieira, and I would like your thoughts on the West Acton Library.
Who is the question directed to, Linda? All of them?
The select board.
The select board, okay.
Yes, all members of the select board, please. Or candidates for the select. Can you repeat the question?
She wanted to know what are the select board candidates' thoughts on the West Acton Library. Dean.
So, as I noted in my intro, I did serve as a trustee of the West Acton Citizens Library for a couple of years. And as municipal properties director, I was involved in a lot of the renovations and upgrade of that facility. So I've got a lot of affection for that building, for that operation. So I'm very much in favor of the direction that we're seem to be moving in as far as a closer collaboration between the Acton Memorial Library and the West Acton Citizens Library, in part because of what I observed when I was a trustee at West Acton. It just, that library all by itself just does not have enough critical mass to be able to have the proper staffing, have the proper backup. It was just, in my opinion, probably a little too small to be effective. So I think closer collaboration, including things we're going to be voting on shortly, about really folding the West Acton Citizens Library trustees in with the Memorial Library, is probably the best route to follow.
David?
Thank you. I agree with Dean that the direction we've been taking over the last couple of years for the West Acton Citizen Library is the right one. There's always been kind of book sharing and that kind of thing between the two libraries ever since the town acquired the West Acton Citizens Library. But it was a little hands-off-ish, and the programs weren't well coordinated, the hours weren't well coordinated. In the past couple of years, past several years really, that's gotten much better. The hours are now much more regular. The staff now rotates or is supplied by the Memorial Library director, and the trustees of both libraries are working together, and as Dean mentioned, we'll probably be voting on integrating an integration plan for the two sets of trustees. So I think we're going in the right direction. Thank you.
June?
Hi, June Leslie. Well, this is a situation close and dear to my heart. Having lived here since 1977, my sons and I frequented this little library, a special library that was given to me. Should I?
Do you want to come down?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I am the petitioner for questioning the current situation with the conjoining of the Memorial Library and the Citizens Library. I think it should stay the way it is. It has been self-supporting with some assistance by the town. But since the town has gotten more involved and has decided that it would like to add 3 trustees that were running the Citizens Library independently, now apparently there's a desire to join them with the trustees of the Memorial Library. And I'm just puzzled as to why any of this needed to happen in the first place. Because I believe it has been doing just fine, although there have been ups and downs, granted. But there were lots of volunteers. And even I volunteer to be a librarian, if need be. That's how much I care about this little library. And my biggest concern is that not all libraries have to be the biggest, best, greatest with all the bells and whistles. I think the way it is just fine. And I hope we can keep it that way and keep our costs down, because currently a lot of people don't realize this. But we are, as citizens and residents of this town, incurring town council legal fees to try to make these changes that Dean and David have suggested. And thousands of dollars that could be spent elsewhere, in my opinion. So I urge you to consider voting no on town meeting night when the petition comes to order. Thank you very much.
So Bob had a question, and then we'll go to Jen.
Well, the tough one coming up in the size of the DPW request for that, I wonder if each of the selectmen could talk pros and cons on why we need this so much. But give some insight into that if you could, please.
So can I just say, can we all just keep it to like a minute and a half? Thank you.
So I'll start off because I'm the chair of the DPW Building Committee, and I've been an advocate for this project for quite some time, informed at least in part by the fact that I worked out of that building for many years in the town. The building was undersized when it was built in 1969. There was decisions made for financial reasons back then to cut a third off the size of the design building. So we had a building that was undersized when we had a population of 14,000, road miles less than we have now, sidewalk miles that were a pittance compared to what we have now. So it's an undersized building. It currently has so many problems with it as far as OSHA non-compliance, air quality issues. We waste huge amounts of time every day moving equipment around because there's just not enough room. ADA issues that I dealt with as a department head when I was attempting to recruit females to work in buildings and grounds operations, because we had absolutely no facilities whatsoever for women as far as locker rooms and that sort of thing. So presently the latest estimates have come in. Building cost will be the amount that we look like we're going to be asking for bonding will be about $35 million. That equates to about $250 for the average household per year. It will be a 30-year note. The time is now. It's just a despicable piece of failing infrastructure, and it affects not only how services are delivered to the public, but it affects being able to even retain proper help.
David, do you want to?
Thank you. I agree with everything Dean said, and I won't rehash that, but I will say a couple of things here. First of all, we really owe this to our DPW employees. The unhealthful conditions that they have to work in, it's really not good and not fair. The second thing I'll say, though, and I don't think this gets talked about enough, right now the project is a really good deal for taxpayers. We've gone through, I mean, I'm not saying it's free, right? It's going to cost $240 something, almost $250 on the average tax bill. But we've gone through 2 rounds of size reductions. The original estimate that we had before the town voted for the design money That was reduced. We've reduced it again. We've gone through rounds of value engineering on the project. It is now a smaller building than what we had envisioned, but it supports most of the operations that we need to do. It's a good deal. Let me say that we have already invested over $1 million in the design of this building because of a town meeting vote that was supported by both the select board and the finance committee. Now that we're at ready to move forward, if we don't move forward, we will have lost that $1.25 million. We would have to start again. And in addition, construction inflation is running ahead of normal inflation. So when we come back to do this again in a couple of years, it will cost us proportionately more. I agree with Dean that the time is now.
Thank you, David. June, do you have anything to contribute to this?
No, this time.
No? Okay. Is this a follow-up question?
It is a
of that?
follow-up question
Okay.
that occurred to me when I was speaking, and it might be quick.
Okay, if it's quick, because I want other candidates to get a chance to.
Okay, yeah, I had a follow-up. Is the new building going to be fossil fuel free?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Jim, do you have a question for any other candidates other than the select board?
No, but I have a follow-up question on the DPW building question. And I'll change my original question to that.
Oh, no. Okay, so let me get back.
Actually, I think it's an important question.
Okay, go ahead.
So far, from what I've heard, the finance committee is completely at odds with the select board. Can you guys explain to me how I can make a choice between what FinCom is saying and what you're saying, and help me to understand why you have not been able to come to any agreement? Select board.
David,
So, all the members of both boards have the town's interests in mind. It's a matter of emphasis, right? The Finance Committee's emphasis is on what the taxpayer pays. And the select board's, but all the members of the Finance Committee are interested in having Acton run well. The select board, although we always talk about being able to spend the taxpayers' money wisely, is focused on operating the town, right? That's what, we hire the town manager, we make the executive decisions in town, and the operation, so the select board feels directly the pain of the employees that have to work in that facility, and the pain of our operations not being as efficient as they could be. And so I think it's a level of difference. For some things, we have this different point of view and we're this far apart. But for other things like this one, we have this different point of view and we're this far apart. And that's why we ask voters to choose.
Dean, or you want to go?
So, yeah, I think David is the select board's liaison to the finance committee, so he spends a lot of time working with them and understanding their points of view. I think one of the other issues that's come up a lot is that, this is going to be a debt exclusion override, and you're going to be paying for it for 30 years. So eventually, for those of us that are young enough, we won't have to pay that. It all depends on how optimistic we all are here. But there's a lot of concern about, we just had an override last year. It was narrowly passed. That's a permanent override, so that'll stay on your tax bills forever. And stacking one override on top of another, it can be controversial. However, we feel now is the best time. There's suggestions, let's wait a couple of years, we'll see what happens, tariff issues and increasing price of supplies and that sort of thing. What we do know is, building inflation costs usually go up by about 5% a year. Wait 4 years, cost of building's going to be another 20%. The building that we've got right now, we think is the right size. We're not going to be able to say, okay, we can only have half of that building. There's no point in doing it. So, it's an honest disagreement, which has been courteous but vehement between the select board and the finance committee. But I think a lot of it is because of the fact that we just had an override last year, so that adds to the angst. Thank you.
I think June wants to say something. Let's keep it short.
I'll be brief. I wonder what other solutions might be available than building a new building, despite how wonderful that would be for everybody. And I do feel for the women not having their own separate space. I do feel for the men and the women both experiencing any health problems, if that's the case. But I also am a firm believer in repurpose, reuse, recycle. And I would like to know what the other studies were that were done to let us know that this is the only option that's being presented. Thank you.
So would I like to ask if you guys have any questions for the school committee? That's good. Go ahead, Sam. Hold on. Yeah, John.
May I ask a school committee question?
Absolutely. Sam raised his hand first, so I let him go first, and then I'll let you ask your question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, after 4 years of budget cuts in the school committee, what creative ideas do you have to help make sure we don't have another year of budget cuts in the school?
Who wants to go first? Lisa?
I'll be bold. Hello everyone, Lisa Adil. So I think it's a really good and it's a fair question to ask. There have been a lot of painful cuts, as previously mentioned. Staff reductions over the years, people we have sadly had to say goodbye to, and it's all been very terrible. And one of the other things that people think about is, yes, it's awful to say goodbye to staff, but our students, the students in these buildings, every time you get rid of an assistant or somebody that you think, or not you, but anyone may think in general may not matter, it does matter. As somebody who's worked as a high school science teacher teaching physics and chemistry and biology, I can tell you it was so helpful. The classrooms that I had the assistants in made the world of difference. When you're separating students out into different learning groups and they're rotating through their different stations, and if you're going around and you're helping them, you really need an assistant or somebody else in the classroom to kind of help work with other students. I'm not an amoeba, I can't divide. So, for all you people of science. And so all of these people are incredibly crucial. So to answer the question fully, no, we don't want more staff reductions. We have to think outside of the box. One of the initiatives that's already going, and the wheels are moving into motion, and the ideas that are being considered by the school committee now, Peter Light leading that, is the idea of doing a reorganization. And this idea is to, how can we shuffle people around and have different combinations of permutations of different grades in different buildings, such that we can possibly eliminate a building or be more efficient. It's really time to work within the budget that we have. I, for one, do not have the heart or appetite to try to ask for another override. I know that's something that's hanging in everyone's mind. I think it's really important to try to work with what we have and find a solution that works for staff, for families, and really our students, because all the resources that we have are so incredibly valuable, and we need to make the most with what we have and find a way to do that.
Thank you, Lisa. Jason or Glen?
I think what it really comes down to is we don't need creative solutions. We just need to act on some of the structural changes that have been recommended. We're doing this finally. We're addressing the fact that we have multiple buildings here. We have a really old building with Cote that needs to be addressed. We have empty classrooms in the new building, which we're all paying for, our tax bill. So we have resources, we have options, we just need to act on them. And it comes down to a uncomfortable but challenging but productive conversation we need to have with the community. Like, hey, we need to change Acton, the way we've done schools, the way we've done our elementary schools. We need to change it. The time is now. The time has passed, really. And we've called for this, right? We've called for open enrollment to be examined. We need to stop hiring consultants. I think, again, we need to stop spending. It seems a little creative to some people, I think, but stop spending money on consultants and other things when we have ideas, we have things, we just need to act on them. We also need to look at the relationship with Minuteman. Minuteman's a great resource. I think it provides a wonderful education for a lot of students, but it costs a lot of money, and the cost per student is way beyond what the educational cost per student is for keeping them in district here. So that is something we need to look at. We need I mean, it's creative now to look at not spending money, I guess, at this point. So that's what I would say about this.
Glen?
Well, I agree with a lot of what has been said. With Lisa in particular, I feel like that with the restructuring process going forward, I feel it's incumbent upon every member of the school committee to be able to engage with the community in this process. I do think that we do need more community input regarding this whole thing. We are dealing with conditions where student enrollment has been going down over the past several years, and it's projected to continue doing so. So if student body is going down, then we have to take a look at how we're currently utilizing our resources in the school committee, school buildings and such. And I think that there is room for creative solutions. I think that in addition to being able to engage with the community, we have to keep a clear communication channel open with them. There are a lot of people that can't attend school committee meetings, but need to have their addresses heard and concerned too. So I think between all that, there is room for community input. We have to engage with them on the community process to keep them involved in the discussion. We do have to look at some buildings. If there are millions of dollars if there's a lot of costs that we are doing with building renovation, we have to consider, okay, why are we doing those renovations? What can we do instead? Are there things that we can are there procedures that we can implement regarding the current resources that we have to more effectively utilize them? So it's an ongoing process. It's unfortunately something that can't be boiled down to simple sound bites. But I think that between community engagement and the steering committee that Peter Light is leading as the superintendent, bringing the community into this input, I feel like that process is an important discussion that we need to have with people, and that there's plenty of solutions that we can come up with. So those are my thoughts.
Great, thank you. Yeah, John, you have a question?
Primary and secondary education is highly regulated. And so as a result, one of the functions of school committee policy is to be compliant with those regulations. An unfortunate aspect of that is that much school committee policy reads directly off the statute and is basically unintelligible. If you're elected to the school committee, would you advocate for policy to move in the direction of plain English?
Yes.
One of you guys want to go first? 100%. I think accessibility is incredibly important. Absolutely. It should be accessible and understandable by everyone. And I would definitely work hard to do that.
I don't understand the question, John.
It's too complex.
That's on me.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, yeah, and of course, with your experience, you obviously know that weeding through that stuff. And I've dabbled in it a little bit, but it is complex, and you're absolutely right. And there's acronyms everywhere, so it does need to be simpler. And it's not just for the committee; it's for the public, because you can't understand. You're looking at it, and I don't really know where its money's going into left, right? It's all the different. It absolutely needs to be simplified, and it needs to be more approachable by the layperson.
Yeah, I do have a little more thoughts than simply yes, but that is the main crux of it. If your policy can't be understood by the community it's serving, that's a problem. So I think being direct to the point is certainly a priority. A lot of the legalese that's in policy initiatives on not just the policy but with the budget too. You have to be able to convey nuance and technicality, but sometimes things get lost in translation. So yes, being able to clearly communicate with the public is a priority, particularly for people who don't have the time to dig through pages of policy, to attend school committee meetings, to be able to wade through hours of footage. Being accessible is a priority.
Awesome, great. So we have 2 questions to the school committee. Any question to the water district, school committee, water district?
Water district.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
The year's 2050. Where is Acton going to get its water?
Want us both to answer that?
Yeah.
Sure. We don't have an answer yet. We're working on the answer because there are a number of things that are happening right now. Number one, there's climate change. Unless you're in denial. there is climate change. I hope it's not controversial here. When it rains, it rains. It rains so hard that it doesn't have time to percolate into the ground. So, you know where it goes. It goes onto the roadways. Basically, it doesn't percolate in the water. We drink our rainwater in Acton because we are a well-based system in Acton. So what are the alternatives? We've been looking at this for a while. We're looking at, and I can't talk about where, we're looking at some properties that are inside of Acton, and we're looking at some properties outside of Acton. You've probably heard that because of some rule changes that have been made, we're looking at a possible partnership with the MWRA. We actually organized a consortium, so we don't look at it by ourselves, but we're looking at it as a possible. Is it feasible? We don't know. We just don't know. We have organized, and I suggested, and the commissioners agreed, we had our attorney draw up an intermunicipal agreement. Originally with Maynard, and then we signed up Groton, Air, Concord, Westford, Bedford also. Bedford is also signed. So we've got a consortium, and we are hiring a consultant that is going to help us look at some of these issues. We're sharing the expense of the consultant, obviously, and we're going to examine the logistics, what the costs are, what are the possible sources of funding, and we also are looking at what happens if we share and what would be our expenses at a regional approach, what would be the expenses of MWRA, what would be the expenses of the state. Obviously, not ready to present that. We're just getting started on that. But we're looking as that may be a possible source. There are also other possible nearby sources, but those are in executive session discussions, and you know, those can't be discussed. So the simple answer is, we don't know where the water is going to come from in 2050, but you can bet the commissioners are looking at that very seriously. If it turns out there's anything feasible with any of these sources, particularly MWRA, we're going to have outreach meetings and present those results to the community. Ultimately, who's going to make the decision? The commissioners have said that the public is going to make the decision. We can tell you about it. We can tell you what our recommendations are, but we are absolutely not going to do anything that the public doesn't want us to engage in. So we're early in the process, but we're working on solutions.
Thank you, Barry. John?
So independent of where we're going to get our water from in 2050, in 2030, we're going to get our water from Acton. So I think job one for the water district is to make sure that we protect our sources. So one of the things that we need to do is work with the town on the topic of road salt. And the second thing that we need to continue to do is push the conservation efforts of the water district. And happily, you know, if you look at the use of water in Acton, it's basically been flat for the last several years. And that's obviously a function of all the people in the community caring about our water use and recognizing that we have a finite resource. With respect to the long-term prospect for the MWRA, as Barry said, there's a process that needs to be investigated. Acton will never hook up by itself to the MWRA. So what the commissioner started in terms of a community consortium is exactly the right thing to do. However, the MWRA is not an infinite water supply. And I think one of the things that hasn't entered into the discussion yet is if we were to join the MWRA, would we want to get 90% of our water from MWRA or 10% of our water from MWRA? And in terms of that hybrid supply situation, that's exactly what Needham does. They're near the cross connection. They have the ability primarily to supply their own water, which keeps that under local control. So I would hope as this develops, what we would ultimately come to is a hybrid system that would better protect our source of supply.
Thank you both. Any other follow-up for them? Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions to our Acton Housing Authority or to our moderator? Yeah.
Hi, I actually have a question for the select board and the housing authority, which is I would love to hear your feelings about Housing for All initiative.
Habitat for All.
Sorry, Habitat for All initiative, please. And Peter, I assume that you probably have an opinion or two.
Yeah, we'll go with Peter first.
Yeah, I've been involved in the Habitat for All meetings that the planning department has been conducting. That'll be a zoning bylaw change that will be on the town meeting warrant. What it emphasizes is smaller homes and more clustered housing, which provides for more open space and housing clustered around closer together. I support it. I think it will lead to, there are incentives built into the zoning bylaw for low-income housing, if that's part of the proposal, and smaller houses as well. And I think the sentiment in town has been building these big McMansions for $1.5 million on sites is not the way that the town wants to go in the future. So this, we've had a clustered housing bylaw for a long time, a planned community conservation development, but this adds to that by providing more incentives for smaller housing and more and low-income housing as well.
Thank you. David or Dean?
Go ahead. So, yeah, I'm in favor of the Habitat for All concept, allowing for smaller homes, clustering them together. A lot of my feelings on this are driven by the fact that I worked with many, many blue-collar employees of the town all through my career. And decade after decade, you just saw that your workforce was being forced to move further and further west, further and further north. Not available, the cost of their commute, both financially and in time constraints, was just tremendous. It just created a real problem for us on the town side, being able to attract and retain a good workforce. Specifically, I was concerned about public works type employees, but also police and fire. I'm sure the same situation is happening with the whole educational system, because the cost of housing is so far beyond the realm of anything that a public employee can afford if you move into this town. I mean, I was fortunate, I inherited a piece of land. If it hadn't been for that, even as a fairly well-paid department head, I would never have been able to afford to live in the town of Acton. And I think there's a lot to be said in favor of having your employees live locally. They're able to respond better. I think they have more of a feeling of empathy for their fellow Actonians. So I think it's really important. So whatever we can do, and I think Habitat for All is one of those things we can do to encourage smaller, more affordable homes, is a great way to go.
Jean, thank you, Dean. Oh, sorry, David and then Jean.
Thank you. I consider Habitat for All to be a win-win. So first of all, just for a little bit of background, right now in our residential districts, you can build a subdivision which is where you divide up the land into equal parts and put up a house on each part, or a PCRC by special permit. PCRC is planned something residential community, I forget which. Conservation. And what it says is you keep 60% of the land unimproved, and you cluster the houses on the rest. There's no change in density between the two approaches. It's just that overall on the whole parcel, it's just that normal subdivision spreads things out, and the PCRC model clusters them together. And to Dean's point, in our subdivisions now, we're tending to build houses that are more than 6,000 square feet. They're absolutely enormous because it makes more money to do that. Then, in addition, and this is the second win to me, is if you're willing to make a certain number, 10% of those units affordable, you can have a higher density in the remaining portion. So, and as Dean mentioned, those houses are smaller, like 1,500 square feet. There's also some provision for 3,000 square feet in the law, but mostly 1,500 square feet, and that allows them to be affordable units. If people know about the retired housing on Audubon Drive, that's a PCRC, as an example, and that's the kind of density and things that we'd be looking at. Thank you.
I am 100% for Habitat for All. The only concern that I have, having been to the meeting and listening to the person explain the various options, there were 4 different options of what type of cluster zoning, what size houses could fit. No, I have actually 2 concerns. One is that in order to have this accomplished, you really need to take into consideration how many trees will be cut down in the process of needing to build these homes. The other concern is septic systems and venting. They're not allowed to be covered with trees, bushes, and flowers and whatnot because the land has to be permeable. I don't know if that's the correct term, but I think that's what I heard. Anyway, so I think there might be a way around that with a little further study, but I did not hear it when it was presented at the last meeting. Thank you.
Is it a question, John?
Well, this issue actually came before the commissioners at the last commissioners meeting. So I was wondering if the commissioners, commissioner candidates might comment on this particular topic.
Go ahead. I think this will be our last thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was, sadly, zoning is very complicated. Sadly, zoning is very complicated, and it's the case that when you look at the impact of the clustered housing and the regulations around it, you can do other things that you might not want to do. And I think the comment that was just made about what will this mean for the forestation of the area is a relevant kind of consideration. In the change from the PCRC to the Habitat for All, the concern that was raised for the commissioners was the language that is in what is now going to be published in the warrant may not be as protective of water quality as previous language. So the commissioners are going to take a look at that and then decide how to behave. So you would just comment that relative to the article writ large, when people are weighing that, if you stay to the end of the town meeting for the zoning articles, it is another consideration to make sure that that language is in there to protect the quality of our water sources.
The commissioners are looking at it. We got together and we submitted, rather than throw scattershot, we submitted the questions to the planning board, or they're being submitted. I think they were submitted to the planning board. and we're waiting for some answers. There are two possible things that we had comments on that we saw would be in the warrant that could affect water quality, but we're going to see if they are addressed. One of them is just not to shut it down, but we want to make sure that there's a method, even though it's by right. It's not by right doesn't mean it just floats right through. It still has to go and be approved by the planning board. And we want to make sure that there's a way for the water district, and if there's a, I guess we're going to call them habitats. If there's one proposed that uses the subsurface wastewater disposal that's in an area that could affect water quality, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for the water commissioners or the water district actually to comment and speak, so that maybe there'll be a reconsideration and a possible movement, relocation of that area before they say start digging holes. So that's our position, not to slow it up, not to stop it, but when there is a possibility, we want to be able to get before the planning board before they give the final okay. So it's like an appeal.
Thank you. I think we have kind of run out of time, Colin. Sure, if it is 30 seconds, yes.
You're going to say this too, but thank you so much.
Yes.
For everything. I'm just a very
I'm just kidding.
Well, thank you guys for your interest. Natalie, we appreciate you guys taking the interest and listening.
Thank you all. Town elections is April 29, Tuesday, April 29. Make sure that you all vote. And a huge round of applause again. It's a big deal, so thank you for stepping up. We really appreciate it. So to my committee, we have to vacate this room, but we can go next door to continue our monthly meeting, which will be, I promise it'll be quick. We'll wrap it up in 15 minutes. Can't be 5. And all our guests, you're welcome to stay and attend our monthly